Hey, what's up, Superdads? Obviously, I am not in my normal recording space, and so you'll have to forgive me if the audio is not the highest quality. I am in my car in the rain, waiting for my daughter to finish ballet practice. Such is the life of a father. But I did want to make sure to get a video out this week, and the topic I want to talk about today is drop sets, pre-exhaustion sets, and these sorts of advanced training protocols, whether they're worth it. And I wanted to address, there was a recent study that came out, so it seems like a timely thing to be speaking about. And I know that Lane Norton did a video about this study. If you haven't seen that video, check it out. Smart guy. I don't agree with everything, all the training recommendations perhaps that he makes, but he's pursuing different goals than I am. And I think than a lot of people who watch my stuff are. And so, anyway, what did this study find? Well, basically, they compared people who were doing pre-exhaustion sets, people who were doing drop sets, to people who were doing traditional resistance training sets, so just straight sets. And essentially what they found is when you equate volume, that you get similar results from doing them. And so the perhaps knee-jerk reaction to this would be, look, see, why would you do these pre-exhaustion, these advanced techniques, these drop set techniques, things like this, right? You're not getting any extra benefit from it. But that really, really seriously misses the point, in my opinion. The purpose, so first of all, let's say this is a absolute win for those of us who advise people to use these sorts of training techniques, for the simple reason that when you do something like a pre-exhaust or a drop set, something like that, you are essentially doing less repetitions but getting similar results. That's what the study showed. Because if you're doing pre-exhaustion, well, what's going to happen is you're doing your, let's say you're doing your, bicep curl first, okay, and then you're going to a pull-up or a pull-down or something like that, some sort of back exercise that also involves your biceps. Well, if you're pre-exhausting your biceps, then you're going to be able to do less weight or less repetitions, either one, for your pull-ups, right? Which means you're having to work with lighter loads, which is going to save your joints, or fewer repetitions, which is going to prevent overuse injuries to some extent, right? And so being able to use less weight or do fewer repetitions and get similar results is a fantastic win, in my opinion. All right. So the same thing for a drop set. A drop set would be where you do a set and then you drop the weight in some way, shape, or form, or you drop the resistance, I should say, and continue on. And this, again, you get similar results as if you were to take a break between them and then do that second set afterwards. So again, fewer repetitions, lesser weight needed on that second, on the drop. Okay, so these are great results. And one thing that they didn't test was rest pause sets. I would imagine that they would get similar results if they did test this. Now, something that this research overlooks, and it's one of the limitations of science, is that they are narrowly focused on what are the hypertrophy and strength results of these practices. And what they're missing, they find out that it's similar to traditional resistance training. But what they're missing is one thing that I've talked about already, which is your risk of injury, right? Now, this is a very difficult thing to study in a scientific study because it's such a long-term phenomenon. You'd have to follow these lifters for years, perhaps, of training and see which group ended up getting injured at a higher rate. And my prediction would be that it would be the group that's doing traditional style resistance training, traditional straight set training, because again, they're having to do more repetitions and they're having to use higher weights to get the same effect. Okay, so that's one thing. They're not able to study injury rates over a long period of time, or like a really longitudinal study. The other thing that they miss is amount of free time. So this study can't study something like quality of life or earnings or strength of relationships, right? And so if you're able to go into the gym and use something like pre-exhaust or drop sets or rest pause sets, anything like this, to get similar results in much less time, which I guarantee you will if you're doing it correctly, you're going to have a lot more time, right? You can knock out a workout in 10-15 minutes, whereas if you're doing straight sets, more than half of your gym time is spent sitting around waiting for the next set to start. And that is not productive time for many of us. And if you're turning it into productive time, then you're not focused on your workout, which makes the workout itself less productive, because something else that's very difficult to study in a research setting would be the importance of mindset. How do you measure objectively what mindset someone is in when they get into the gym, the time that they're spending in the gym, whether they're really dialed in and focused on what they're meant to be doing? The fact that we can't measure these things, or that it's very difficult to design a study that would measure all of these things, suggests to us the limitations of the science and why we can't just look at a study and use that as guidance for how we should live. It is information that we are meant to then interpret, run through our own understanding, and with our own wisdom to apply to our own individual lives. So, should you use drop sets? Should you use rest pause? Should you use pre-exhaust? Especially if you're working out at home, I think these are fantastic things to do. When you're working out with dumbbells and free weights, it's much harder to push yourself to momentary muscular failure, beyond failure, these sorts of things. So absolutely, I think you should. Traditional drop sets might be a little bit harder to use because, if you're working out with free weights at home, it might be hard to switch those out. Maybe it's easy for you, but maybe it's not. So you're going to want to look at something like mechanical drop sets, or something that I talk a lot about, which is my own terminology, which is adaptive drop sets, which has your own legs or something like that assisting the exercise to provide just the right amount of assistance. Because really what a drop set is, it's very similar to like a forced rep. So if you have a training partner and you get to the point where you can't do another rep, the partner helps you by removing some of the resistance by providing help, right? And so that's all a drop set really is. That's what it's meant to be. So you don't want to be spending a lot of time changing out the weights, changing out the dumbbells or whatever it is, especially you have those adjustable weights where you have to unscrew them and stuff like that, right? That's too much time. Even a traditional barbell where you have to slide the weights off, maybe, okay, again, it's like too much time. We want something where we can really skip through it. So if you're able to do that with your setup, and great, or one of the things I talked about, mechanical drop sets or adaptive drop sets, which I'll make other videos about. I already having talked about them in other videos, but I'll definitely dedicate one video to different kinds of drop sets. Okay, then the other one, pre-exhaust. I use this all the time. Now, a lot of people would do this with a dynamic movement. They would do a dynamic movement like a bicep curl, and then they would do their pull-ups or something like that. I like to do it with an isometric movement, and I pre-exhaust. So if I'm going to do bicep curls, I'll do an isometric, overcoming isometric bicep curl, and then go into my dynamic bicep curls. And so the pre-exhaust comes from the isometric, and I really like that because it allows you to put a ton of force through the muscles and through the joints to really get them prepped for the work that you're about to do dynamically. It also allows you to work with light weights but still develop really high levels of like crushing strength that you get from isometrics, that you get the kind of strength that isometrics can give you and other kinds of exercise don't really give you. So absolutely incorporate rest sets, pre-exhaustion sets, even those of you who are in the gyms, I believe should do this. And then rest pause, I use this a ton. This is an easy one for those of you who are at home and are using dumbbells, and maybe drop sets aren't as easy, where you just go to the end of the set, go to failure, and then put the weights down, give yourself 10-15 seconds, and do a couple more reps, and repeat that for at least 2 of those rest pause sets. This is a staple of dog crab training. I recently ran through a cycle of dog crab training and really got a lot stronger and built a lot of muscle from doing it. And so I've incorporated rest pause since then to pretty good effect. Okay, so should you be using them? Almost all of you, the answer would be yes. And then particularly if you're training at home, maybe not as much if you're training with a partner or you're training in a commercial gym, but even then, why not experiment? It keeps things fresh, it keeps them new, keeps you interested, it can keep you, and that's one other thing that they don't talk about is, the importance of being interested in the workout that you're doing, feeling motivated when you go in there. That's the kind of thing that over months and months of doing the same workout can lag, and if your mental edge lags, then the effort that you're giving and the intensity that you're able to produce are also going to lag. It's just the way of things. So by incorporating these sorts of techniques and things like that, you can keep it interesting, you can keep it fresh, you can keep yourself sort of on the edge, you know, challenging yourself in new ways. And yeah, there you go. That's my opinion on it. Okay, so all of these advanced techniques, give them a try, experiment on them, see what you like, see what you don't like, see what you can do, see what you struggle with. All right, thanks so much. You can check out links below to find workout systems that really use a lot of pre-exhaustion, definitely, but also teach you how to do things like supersets, mechanical drop sets, J-rep zone training. That's another thing that wasn't covered in this study, but another advanced training technique that I really like. Okay, and of course, there's a Facebook group. Leave any questions down below, and thanks so much for everyone who comments and likes and does all those other things that support your favorite YouTube creators. All right, go be super.